So the name of my talk, just in case, so you know that you're in the right place, but we're always, of course, in the right place, is with great responsibility comes great power. A really fun play on words. Dancing with the magic of synchronicity. And the whole idea behind this, the whole reason that I'm here is through this journey. So it's basically just a telling of how I ended up here 10 days after finding out this existed, doing my first talk, my first PowerPoint presentation, my first a lot of things. So we'll just get started. So this story begins, like a lot of stories do, with a desert sunrise and a couple clowns, a temple, a camera. That particular morning, a hallucinogenic piece of Sour Patch watermelon candy, and the grand desire to pee. So that morning, I jumped on a bicycle, and then 18 months later, I'm talking to you today. And that's the and basically that's the entire story. So now we're done. But the whole idea behind this was there's often stories like this that most of you know, that most of you have heard, many of you have lived. The idea of a story where like magical things happen, where they come together in a way that you couldn't have possibly explained, where you leave like with a wow, because there's just no way that you could have ever expecting that. And there's actually a word for that. Some people know that word. Some people just call them coincidences or flukes or like luck. But there was a word that was coined in 1951 by this dapper gentleman, Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology. And he called it synchronicity. And you may not be able to read it back there, I'm not really sure, but basically the psychoanalytical definition of synchronicity is the simultaneous occurrence of events that appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection, which is a long way of saying coincidences that are related, basically, like a confluence of things that seem to be happening by chance. And what's really important about that is that it's not about the coincidences themselves, it's about your relationship to them, the meaning and perception that you have of them. And so that makes a huge difference because it's personal. Now, I want to actually take this a little bit further today, because while this is a great definition, I feel like it falls a little short because it is perceptional. What I would love to do is take us to the physical version of it, because synchronicity means something in physics as well. It means the state of being synchronous, which is the state of having the same frequency and zero phase difference, which basically means that the frequencies of two waves are aligned. And what happens when you align two frequencies is they combine and they actually amplify. And so it's not just two waves sitting next to each other, you actually get a multiplication of the result. And that's the bit and piece that I feel like the psychoanalysis definition misses out on, is this idea that you can create a greater result because of the confluence, because of the dream, and because of the inexplicable and the amazing. That's a little picture to show waves going together. Talked about it already. We're good. And so this is a picture of a role model of mine, El Luna. She's a professional author and an artist. And she was speaking at the Wisdom 2.0 conference, which some of you may have heard of. It's a conference that goes on in the Bay Area, and it was actually last weekend. And I was watching her talk because I had read an article that she'd written almost a year ago called The Crossroads of Should and Must. And she has now written a book, and she was talking about this idea, this journey, to take yourself on the journey that you have to do, the must in your life. And obviously, I mean, for a lot of us, that's really inspiring. There's like how to, what you should, like what you look at, how to pull it all apart. And it was a super compelling talk. And what I found was, even in her speaking, this role model of mine, I was sitting there watching this, like I said, 7 days ago, basically. And I was looking at her, and she would describe this journey like as a dream. She was like, and then this crazy thing happened, or it was so amazing. Out of nowhere, this was like, I found the space of my dreams. And I can't explain it, but a year from the day that my article was published, my book is being published. So there's those, inexplicable things that I think we would all define as moments of synchronicity that came together for her. But what I heard for me, my perception of it, was I kept hearing this idea that it was this thing that was happening to her. This idea that even though this super powerful person who I super respect was living in like a fairy tale, like, oh, I'm just going through, and then the guy comes out and the horse with the thing, and wow, that was really cool, he saved me. And I mean, even Alex, our keynote speaker, he talked about, I don't know if you heard him, he talked about that solar tree, and I don't know if you heard him, he called it a coincidence that it was finished yesterday. He was like, yeah, isn't that a coincidence? Like, that was finished yesterday to be ready to be able to talk about it today. And if you read into it, I mean, it could be, I guess, but what if it was more than just that? What if this story wasn't just the end, happily ever after, the end? What if it was the gateway instead of the destination? What if you could, instead of ending here, what if this is actually where you got to start? And that's the whole point of this today, because something that I find that I don't hear is, how do I take this thing, this magical thing, and then how do I become, or even realize that I already am a part of the magic? And so to bring it back to the story with the desert sunrise and the candy, another part of that journey was 2 weeks ago, I bought a ticket to come to LA because there's a reunion that I'm going to this evening, actually, for some old classmates and colleagues of mine from UCLA. I haven't seen them in literally 15, 10 years. And it happened to be, inexplicably, tonight, right? And I decided that I wanted to go because I bought a ticket so close to the date because I was looking for why I wanted to go. And I realized I wanted to go because of things that I really care about: community, connection, like collaboration, creation. I was like, I want to see these people and I want to connect with them. I don't just want to reminisce about old times. I want to see what can be new. And so for me, this was my version of step one. Because, of course, there's like a three-step process for you to take yourself to the next level of whatever. But step one of this is know your alignment. And for some of us, that might be really simple. Maybe we're living that every single day, every single moment. Like you have ways to ask yourself. But for a lot of people, it's actually rather difficult. It's something that we actually haven't ever been taught. It's not something that we ever learned in school. And so it takes something to know what it is that is true to you. That's what I mean by your alignment. I was talking about aligning of frequencies, right? So your alignment is key to that. What is your frequency align with? And I just decided to come up with a couple ways, or just to share a couple ways to understand what that is for you. Simply put, you can look at my really great handwritten sign, but you can know what it's not. Human beings are entities of contrast. We live through the contrast of things. So when we know what something isn't, then it helps us figure out what is. So if you look at, what do I hate? What did I hate as a kid? What do I not like to do? What seems really hard for me? What can I never bring myself to do? Then when you do that, that starts to show you this compass, this contrast. You start to gain your sense of what's south and what's north for you, and understand which way you want to point on the map. And that's just, simply the starting of that knowledge space. And how else do you not know, how else can you tell when you're facing something that isn't in alignment with you? Well, the really easy one, I kind of mentioned it already, but is when things feel super duper hard. Like when everything feels like it's going so slow, when it feels like everything is completely uphill, ask yourself, what's out of alignment? Because if you look at the word, like, what does alignment mean? Like, it's things are out of resonance. There is something, you're wondering, like, is this something is not lining up for you, is simply it. And so you can look for what is not lining up for me. It's not some out there thing. It's not some spiritual whatever. It's really simply what is out of line for you, such that your path is not straight. It's not easy. And then from that, you start to understand, and you start to get to the point of figuring out what that flow is. And I think we all know that feeling. We've probably had hopefully we've all had some of those days where you're just on the wind, where you're like the leaf on the river, where you're surfing like the perfect wave. And it might be like at work, it might be at home, it could be wherever, but it's that feeling, and you can start to gravitate more and more towards that and replicate that more and more in your life. And that brings me to step number 2. Because once you have that alignment, I was coming to LA for something that I knew was important to me. Then I could actually look for and notice the synchronicity. So this is a capture from my Facebook page, and you can't read it from here, but I'm going to point at it with an arrow, so it makes it seem important. And you understand that it's actually when about like 10 days ago or so, something like that, one of those clowns had the nerve to invite me to something, to invite me to like a page on Facebook. And of course, we always like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll join it, maybe I won't, whatever. And I saw in the title of this that had LA in the title. And I knew I was going to LA. And so that had me, so then I noticed, well, that's interesting that she would invite me right now, right after I'd bought the ticket that I hadn't told anyone else about. And so I clicked. And I saw what that was. And of course, it was BIL2015. And I was like noticing, wait a minute, there's this, I don't even know what an unconference is. Wait a minute, it's about community and about connection, and it's about the conversations in between the talks. That sounds familiar. And it's on March 6th, 7th, and 8th. Wow, like I'm flying in on the 5th. That's crazy. That's inexplicable, right? So I was noticing. Clearly, I was like, well, okay, all right. And the thing is, right at that point, I could have stopped. I'm actually not sure. What's the next slide? Yeah, it's just step 3. I could have stopped. I could have stopped right there, and a lot of people do that. They stop right there, and they go, wow, isn't that crazy? And then, so when you go, wow, isn't that crazy, and then you move on, then that's the fairy tale. Happily ever after. Well, it's done. I could have said, well, it's the same weekend. Then is that too bad? Oh, it's so soon. How can I possibly do anything? Or maybe I'll just go and see. Like, those are all things that I could have done. But because of this patented methodology, all I did was I leaned in. I knew that it was in alignment with who I wanted to be, and I decided to dance with the one who brung me. Like, I decided to take the invitation and say yes to it, and then keep going. And so it's lean in, take responsibility, create power. They're all kind of 3 ways to say kind of the same thing in a slightly different way. But basically, it was the idea that I could, what can I glean from this? Instead of asking, seeing how it didn't make sense. How could I make it make sense? And so then I was, oh, here's how to buy your tickets. Great. Oh, you can be a speaker. Great. So all you have to do is edit the Wikipedia page or the wiki page, and now you're a speaker. Okay, I don't know. Let's give it a go. So I wrote a bio I'd never written. I made a talk up that I made a PowerPoint presentation I've never. So these are all obviously examples of leaning in. right? Like, it's like, what could I have done? I could have said no and stop at any point in time. And I'll tell you what, like, I mean, there's like 9 versions of this talk on my computer, like open right now. You know, it's like not like it was easy, but it was there. And so it felt like I was spitting on the universe, or spitting on the opportunity that of my own creation, if I didn't say yes. And so I did. And so what I want to impart upon you, and I think I already have, is this idea that there's a dance happening. It's not, and you're being asked, and you can listen to, and it's all just an opportunity. You don't ever have to say yes. You don't ever have to lean in. But it's so cool when you do. Like, what if the signpost wasn't just a signpost? Hey, cool, crazy, wow. What if it was a doorway? You know, what if it was something else? And so, of course, one of those clowns, both of those clowns are sitting in the front row. They got married the night before when I took this picture. They had a long night, probably some candy of their own, I don't know. But I took these beautiful photos, and I shared them with them, and they're actually on their walls, and it's really flattering and beautiful. Okay, that one's over. And it was but look, what are your signposts? Because I mean, I didn't ever think that I would be here because of, her name's Elizabeth, because of Elizabeth, or Scott, her husband. I didn't ever think of that. That wasn't even in there, but it was there. And you just ask yourself, like, when I had the opportunity, I clicked on yes. You know, yes, speaking, yes, going, yes, tickets. So, like, you know, what's your yes? Like, maybe I'm the signpost. Maybe I'm the universe saying that to you, and now you can't unlisten to me. So, what's your yes? And that's it. And I was told to make one of these pages, so feel free to read that. Thank you.